Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews, and we're here to do another episode of Mr. Robot. We're on Season 1, Episode 2. There will be full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go run and watch that and come back and watch this. So the first time I did this for the first episode, while I was really excited to do it, I really wasn't happy with the end result. So I'm hoping to get better at these. There's so much to talk about in Mr. Robot episodes that I may even have to start relying on a script. Because as of right now, I just kind of use my tablet as a place to remember everything. Because it's not about like when I'm in the moment, I can remember it. It's remembering all the moments, and there's so many. So anyway, let's just jump right in because this is just another fantastic episode. There's rarely a time when I can say Mr. Robot didn't have a good episode. So this is Season 1, Episode 2, 1.1. Zero and Ones-and-Zeroes.mpeg. That's another thing about this show is that like when you do reviews for it, you have different ways that you could describe it and type it in as your title of your videos. You can do Season 1, Episode 1, or you can do S1, E1, or you can do how they have it where it's like S1.1 underscore blah blah blah. It's so you try to make it simple enough so that people can find your video, which is kind of funny. So let's see. We start right where we left off, where Elliot's talking to Terrell Wellick. Terrell, surrounded by lawyers, basically offers Elliot a job. He recognizes in Elliot that he's an incredible talent. He saved the company, but you also know, like, you can start to get the idea because of what Terrell says about how he's the youngest CTO and he's got all these grand plans that he wants somebody like Elliot on his side. But Elliot, he just, well, first off, I'm surprised he doesn't flat out say no right away, but he just says, "Can I think about it?" And this is where Terrell's, like, "Oh, we need the room and all this." I love the way they film this. It's just, almost every scene in this show, too, by the way, is just, I love the way it's shot. Explaining about what do you want, like, he basically, he's giving Elliot the spiel. And basically he's like saying, like, look, once we're good, all safe's done. Like, we're gonna cut ties with these people, and I'd rather you be here. And Elliot just, simply this whole scene, just Elliot turns him down, and Terrell kind of walks away and is like, well, I thought I'd ask, and you can tell that this is more disappointing for Terrell than he's kind of showing. Because already Terrell kind of feels like Elliot and him are kindred spirits. So Elliot leaves. We get our big title sequence with Beethoven playing behind it. And this is where we get to Elliot. He does what he does, which is he hacks people. And so he immediately starts hacking Terrell because why wouldn't you? But right before this, I love the way they shoot the scene of Terrell's men dropping him off. And his, the security guy calling himself Mr. X from the character in JFK that gives like the big expedition, one of the big exposition dumps of that movie. The guy with all the knowledge, the guy with all the secrets that like suddenly opens Jim Garrison's eyes and stuff. So it's, I guess, I don't know if he's thinking that, if we're supposed to think that Mr. X here in the front seat has like the keys to the kingdom that has all this information, or what, or maybe he's just making a joke about the situation of, being one of these guys. But then he calls himself, "You can call me Mr. Sutherland," which in JFK, the character of Mr. X is played by Donald Sutherland. So it's like another little hint, but I still think that that's also lost on Elliot. So this guy's like trying to be, I don't know, quippy, clever, I don't know. But so Elliot hacks Terrell, and it's like just basic cookie cutter, perfect life, nothing out of the ordinary, which just that little itch that Elliot can't get quite scratched is like, oh shit, like this is what he wanted me to see. And this is where we see Elliot go through something we'll see plenty of going forward when he feels like he's, done something that could get him into, you know, real big trouble. So he's just like, he scrubs all his stuff. He microwaves his chips. He drills his, you know, his computer stuff. Completely just, you know, getting rid of everything and evidence of, you know, things that he's been looking at. It also leads me to question, like, what kind of finances does Elliot have? Because this job at Allsafe and everything, I mean, unless he just really lives so far off the grid and just so minimally that he can afford to pay for this stuff, because that's all he really pays for. But like rent, things like that, I don't know how much any of this stuff actually costs him. So he starts doing his morphine. Earlier, just to like quickly, him and Frankie Shaw have a conversation about him getting more morphine without his withdrawal medications. I really like how she doesn't want to give him the morphine without the withdrawal. That promises are matter, promises are important. Showing, you know, and she also cares about his well-being, while he's just more concerned and thinks of her kind of as just a means to an end. Not really noticing that, you know, she really cares about him. Kind of how he just can't connect with people. Even, you know, like he talks about being lonely, but he won't allow himself to connect to people that want to connect with him. So it's kind of like, I understand that too. Like, I've been in that position too, where I feel really lonely, but I also don't want to, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Where you want to connect, but you can't, or you won't. It's a weird, like, it's almost like hypocrisy. It's almost like hypocritical thinking. But she does give him the morphine eventually, and he starts doing a lot. And right when you start thinking, hey man, you're doing a lot, he at least acknowledges it, like, hey man, I know what you're thinking. I'm taking too much. So that's, you know, those are like cool little moments. That I like. So he ends up like taking let's just skip the whole dog taking a whiz thing. This is where we get to Allsafe and Elliot telling him, you know, like, we're gonna give you a raise. I like where he walks in with the hoodie, you know, like, he doesn't want to be noticed. I mean, even though walking in with a hoodie is gonna make you notice, kind of like how I feel like I'll wear sunglasses everywhere I go, and I feel like it's like, even though I know people see me, it's kind of like my way of hiding. I used to wear hoodies too. I used to do the same exact thing, where I would just put it on and kind of like my cloak, where I for myself can go into tunnel vision and I don't have to acknowledge the rest of the world. Even though I know the rest of the world can, you know, see me, it's kind of like a blocker. And I still do it to some extent. It's, I don't know, psychological, I guess, you know, just the wearing sunglasses. Like, I'm going to go to the comic book shop today and I'm going to wear my shades because, I don't know, it's just, I don't really want to be noticed, but then by trying not to be noticed, you get noticed. So I guess I'm just as weird as Elliot. So anyway, but this is also where we see our first F Society video, and I love it. And this is where I just love Christian Slater. This is the kind of like part he's born to play. Because I grew up, you know, like in the 90s, you know, Christian Slater was cool as shit, man, with movies like Pump Up the Volume, you know, where he was kind of the anti-establishment guy in that movie. And so this is like him all grown up, still kind of being the happy hard-on Harry that he was back in that movie. It just will, you know, kill ya. It was just like the way that I just remember him being like in those days. And this is him with the mask on and condemning the world's problems and stuff. It's just so great, talking about what he's going to do to these companies. It's just great. It's also then after this we're introduced to this street hustler who turns out to his name is Cisco, selling his CD on the street, and he ends up seeing Angela and Ali on the street, and he gets them to buy the CD. So this comes up later. And I might as well get to his thing. Like, she's concerned about Elliot. He keeps putting the CD into his computer, and it's like popping it back out and crashing his computer. He just keeps doing it. This is how dumb this motherfucker is. He doesn't realize that this is doing something on his computer. You know, because he's also like, while she's half naked, getting ready to take a shower, and he's talking about, you know, doing things, he's looking at pictures of this girl he's cheating on her with, and, you know, making up lies to go to a bar to meet a friend while he's gonna go screw some other girl. This guy is such a dumb tool. I mean, he is the stereotypical bad boyfriend, shithead tool. But then you see why the disc was in there, and that this guy Cisco is at the other end, working with the Dark Army to surveil on Angela. Says we're in. So it's some pretty crazy stuff that you don't really know at this point where it's going. So Elliot gets back to his house where the girl from the arcade, Darlene, is in his shower. And this is where we start to get where the unreliable narrator and Elliot's not knowing or understanding things and blocks in his memory start to formulate and become a bigger thing, because he doesn't know who she is, but she acts like she knows who he is. Like, why do you know where I live and I don't know where you live? And it's all about her, you know, like taking him to the arcade, where this is where Elliot and we officially meet the rest of the people that are working in our society with Mr. Robot. You've got Mobley, Trenton, and Romero along with Darlene, and this is kind of where Mr. Robot tells Christian Slater's character starts to kind of tell what their plan is. Now that they've got Colby arrested for the hack, they plan on blowing up this place that has all the data, and that'll help them like destroy Evil Corp. I also love that every character calls E Corp Evil Corp. It's just one of those fun things that they do. It's like F Society and all this other stuff. Things that they normally don't point, you know, like, it's just a nice little extra tidbit there. But Elliot's like not down with blowing up a pipeline because it could kill a bunch of other people. I love how Mr. Robot's like, oh, we'll give him a head start, you know, like everything that Christian Slater does in this is so fucking great. This whole first season, I mean, I think he was nominated for an Emmy, and I don't know if he won. Man, if he didn't win, I hope. What a fucking jip. Because like Peter Dinklage in the first season of Game of Thrones, Christian Slater owns this season, and every scene he's in just kills. But anyway, to get back on topic, so he kind of just bails, and they're confused, and this is where it starts to like where you're confused, because Mr. Robot and Elliot, you know, have this thing together, and you just never know what's going on. Like, this is where you start to question reality on the show already, and I love it. Rewatching it, just where now that I've seen these episodes, this is probably like the third or fourth time I've seen these episodes. Just seeing more and more of the details that I might have missed all those other times I watched is pretty rewarding. So let's get this back up. Oh, Mr. Robot does talk about how he knows how Elliot's father died. And this is now where we get to meet our first real villain. This show has lots of bad guys that'll be introduced over the course of the series. You know, everybody at E Corp and Terrell Wellig, you know, Colby and Price and White Rose and all these people that will be introduced in the show. This is our first, they're all bad guys, but this is our first like villain. Like our straight up, like he's not a part of the main story. He is just a bad person, and that's Fernando Vera. So Elliot goes over to Shayla's house, and this guy's there sitting in his fucking underwear, this gangbanger thug fucker. She's like locked in the bathroom, and he just puts on his best gangbanger, you know, attitude, intimidating. He's a killer and a drug dealer and a murderer probably, you know, like Elliot breaks it down that this guy's like one of the worst people he's ever hacked. Probably, or maybe he says the worst person he's ever hacked. And so I know what it's like to be in Rome with guys that, not like murderers, but people that you just loathe, and you have to sit there while they talk with that, and you have that look on your face. You're trying not to have that look on your face, like I would fucking knock you the fuck out. Just being around a bad person, I mean, like where you just know somebody's a piece of shit. But this guy is really bad. And he's trying to flex and, you know, intimidate Elliot. And so, but he can't really. And so the only thing he can do short of just killing Elliot for no reason, really, except for that Elliot just doesn't like him, is he takes away his withdrawal medication. And I like what he says, though. He's like, you know, you should be afraid. There's a time to be smart and a time to be stupid, or something like that. I can't remember, but this guy's a real bad news. And so after he leaves and Elliot gets into the bathroom and makes sure Shayla's not overdosed in the bathtub, you also know that she's been like raped by this guy, and she won't do anything about it, because he gives her good deals on things. And it's just kind of like that. That's just I don't know how I feel about that. It makes me a little mad, makes me sad about this character, because like what Fernando says is, I'd have never met her if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for you needing the specific things that you needed, which is the morphine and the withdrawal medication together, he'd never met her. And although Elliot, you know, although Elliot treats her like she's just like this person in his life that he kind of uses for drugs and whatever little things, like taking care of his dog and stuff, he does have feelings for her. He does care about her, but not enough to stop dealing, like stop going through this guy to get his stuff. But then as we see, that changes. He finally drops a dime on this guy. He gets this guy arrested. So that basically means he's going to be, you know, cold turkey quitting morphine and all this other stuff. So he has made a choice, a good choice to like protect her, try to keep this guy away from her. But the thing is like, even though you may be able to walk away from the drugs and you think that might be the reason that, you know, force her to stop being around this guy, that doesn't mean that this guy's going to just go away. That's how you have, you know somebody's a real villain, is that they'll just keep coming. Doesn't matter if you stop using the drugs. He's in their life. He's a tick, and you can't just, you know, pick him away. You got to burn that fucker out. So at least he's going to jail. But this guy's just real bad news. What's this speech he talks about? This guy hates himself and all this. All right, so he goes to Krista, then his therapist, and she's seeing, you know, the patterns that something bad's going on with him, and that she can see that he's slipping into old patterns. That he'd been part of this group and it didn't work out and things weren't going the way he wanted to. And she also mentions about his father and how his father did nothing when he was sick, and that Elliot, though, has found options and he could do things. But, you know, why is he regressing? Keeps going into it. So then we get to the end of this episode where Elliot meets up with Mr. Robot at the Coney Island Pier, and Mr. Robot wants, Elliot wants back in. He says he has a way to fix, to get what they want without blowing up the pipeline. But before Mr. Robot will let him back, he wants, some sort of like payment, like to get back in. And that payment is for Elliot to tell him about what happened with his dad. And he talks about the day that he gets pushed out the window and everything, and like that he feels like he told, he found out about the leukemia, and that he finally told, and when he did, his dad pushed him out the window. And Mr. Robot asks him if he feels like he deserved that it was a betrayal. And man, Elliot's like, what the fuck are you talking? And just as he's saying that, Mr. Robot pushes Elliot off the pier. And just, you don't know, like, what the fuck just happened? Did he just kill Elliot? And he's like talking about how, you what does he say? Betraying his, yeah. He didn't commit. He couldn't commit to it. So that's the end. It's a fantastic second episode. I hope I did a little bit better this time. Again, I can't wait to. I've seen this before, but I don't remember all the little details. It's the journey. So anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications for my videos. So, like I said, I hope I get better at doing these Mr. Robot ones. I hope this one was better than the last one. And so this is Rob for Smirking Gun Review saying, we'll see you on the next video, and have a great Sunday. Bye.